Transfer windows are not just about acquisitions and signing new players. Retaining players can be as important or even more important depending on what's going on. And Leeds United have hinted at some essential talks for a winger that we desperately need next season. Yes, I'm currently wearing my seven-a-side team shirt. Sorry, I finished playing about an hour ago. It's a nice kit. Anyway, Leeds United have hinted at making a move for a key wing player, and I say making a move, and it's a very, very loose use of the term, because we've dropped a big hint on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it over contract talks. Leeds United posted a video of Dan James's highlights from the last season, and basically just sort of like highlighted everything that he's done good, and basically every single post any football club makes in the summer is going to be very, very intentional. I'm going to have a very quick look at Leeds United's Twitter page right now and just sort of run you through everything that has been posted for the past few days. So, quick screen share. Let's pop that open. Bosh. So, Dan James tweet. Father's Day. Tweet from Mateo Joseph. Sue Smith, I don't know. And it's all just sort of like around players that have done really well, or commercial stuff, or like birthday stuff for previous players. And if you're doing something about someone that is a current footballer, odds are there might be some news around it. So the Mateo Joseph one was timed with various press releases about the fact that he could be going to the Olympics. And let's be honest, media staff at clubs know all about the sort of scrutiny that they face, because everyone's going to read way too far into every social media post. So it gets to the point where every social media post has meaning, because they don't want posts without meaning to be read as having meaning, if that makes sense. And to me, doing that indicates a potential contract extension for Dan James. And there is a lot of logic behind that, because Dan James's current contract is in a weird, fun situation. He signed for Leeds in the 2021? Yeah, summer of 2021, sorry. Right before Bielsa's final season. And he did so for as long as possible, because Leeds really wanted him. He really wanted to come to Leeds, and it was like, yeah, cool. The matchup works for £25 million and on a 5-year contract, which means the contract ends in 2026. For that initial contract, Leeds United paid him £50,000 a week. Big money, fair enough. But at that point, he'd sort of earned it, because he was coming from Manchester United, who were playing in Europe, and basically we thought after that first season when we finished 9th, maybe we can keep on doing the building up thing and maybe get into Europe ourselves. So it made sense. 50 grand a week just sort of added up. However, didn't work out. And that was in the Premier League rather than the Championship. So with this renewal coming up now, I think we can probably expect to be paying Dan James lower wages in any contract that he's offered. And we need to consider the fact that in addition to that, there's likely to be a wage increase clause in the event that we are promoted. The same probably exists in the likes of Ethan Ampadu's contract, or anyone that we signed last year, and anyone that we will sign this year, because at that point there'll be Premier League players. Brilliant, well done, have your bonuses, have a pay increase, because they know the club has a significantly higher amount of cash. It's a good way of making sure that we have to pay a little bit less now, even though we'll have to pay a little bit more later. It just sort of adds up. Part of the reason I think it's definitely a contract talk is the fact that his contract does end in 2026. Being in 2024, this is the last season that we'd theoretically be able to sell him at his highest possible value, because next year, all the clubs would go, well, he's got 1 year left on his contract. We can just wait and sign him on a free next year. No one's thinking that 2 years out, purely because, well, you don't want to wait 2 years for a new player. You don't know what your squad issue is going to look like. You don't know what your manager is going to be. It gets a little bit more complex when you're planning that far out. 1 year, fine, you can risk it. 2 years, a little bit too much. So this is just a way of making sure that we shore up not only his value, but making sure that we have him for that extended period of time. There's no risk of running the contract down, especially if we add another 3 years or so to it. It'd be a long contract, but I think it'd potentially be one that he deserves, because is Dan James extending his contract important? And in my opinion, absolutely yes. You look at what he did last season, and he was one of the most effective players on the pitch. That playoff final, we had one player that was seriously, genuinely dangerous from the moment he came on, and it was Dan James. Because he brought some significant aggression and directness to the team. When Crescencio Somerville was on the pitch, you would see him take the ball, think, I can take on that man. Try and take him on, but then not be sure of what to do next, and cut inside and eventually have a shot. And sometimes that leads to a goal. But on the contrary, what Dan James tends to do is pick up the ball and go, I'm just going to run at you. And if I get past you, brilliant, fantastic, I'll put a ball into the box. If I get past you and I'm slightly more inside, I'll have a shot. And it led to something like, I think, 14 goals last season in 40 appearances, which is a really, really good return considering how many of those appearances were off the bench. Not only that, but he's like the one winger we have that we can be certain about. Going into this coming season, Jayden Anthony's gone back to Bournemouth. Crescencio Somerville, as we learned yesterday, today for me, but I'm sending this out in the morning, so it's fine. Crescencio Somerville could be on the way to Brighton. We don't know what's going to happen with Willie Gnonto. Dan James is the one dedicated winger that we know we have in that position. So sort of securing him is just something that, in my opinion, makes a hell of a lot of sense. Add on to that he's something unique for breaking low blocks. What we tended to try and do last season was pass our way around them and through them, and hopefully maybe we can unpick the lock. And unpicking locks is fine enough when you've got a passer that can do that, but we don't always have that. Or if we do have those players, they're not always going to be able to. Sometimes you just need a hammer to hit the lock hard enough to crack it open. And I think Dan James's direct, aggressive approach is perfect for what we need in the Championship next season. So for me, personally, I think he probably starts next season. And you don't want someone that started for you having less than 2 years on their contract, because that leaves you incredibly vulnerable, and it could ultimately lead you to losing that player when their value suddenly takes a nosedive. Genuinely, I think this is potentially one of the better bits of business we'll do this summer, and it's not even getting a new player. And that's why I think it's worthy of doing a video about. But whilst that's my opinion, I also sort of want to know yours. Let me know what you think on Dan James. Do you think he has the effectiveness to be that sort of key winger in the Leeds United side next season? Or do you think he's going to be a bit more peripheral, coming off the bench, having an impact that way? Also, do you sort of think we're going to do a hell of a lot of recruitment in the wing department? I've heard a lot of discussion around maybe doing the old Daniel Farke style of 3 number 10s, so if that's looking likely, will we need more wingers? I don't know. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe, and I will see you later. This is a spectacular kit. I mean, look how pink and purple. Oh, I love it. Word to put down below in the comments. Put the word never, because Dan James is never going to leave. Nope. He's not even going to consider it. See you later.